So it's Pokemon's 30-year anniversary, and the theme of this year seems to be determining what people's favorite Pokemon are. And considering there are over 1,000 Pokemon that exist, some will absolutely be more popular than others. But I mean, surely Yungoos is someone's favorite Pokemon out there, right? Like, surely that person exists? I didn't make them up in my head. And while many Pokemon are way more popular than others, even some of the most popular Pokemon that exist are not great. But today I am using a full team of the worst Pokemon that are also among the most popular in the series. And if you enjoy these types of videos, then please consider subscribing. I specialize in doing these unique Pokemon teams, and I would really appreciate it if you do. And with that, let's quickly talk about the Pokemon that I will be using on this team. So the first Pokemon on this team is Luxray, and I think this Pokemon is the face of infamously bad Pokemon that are also extremely popular. This Pokemon was even in a Super Bowl commercial. Although, as an electric type physical attacker, it's really tragic. Furt is the next pick. With it being a early route Pokemon, it's not exactly going to be amazing, but this Pokemon is extremely popular, especially because of the Accumulatown video. Furt just seems like one of those Pokemon that's like really impossible to hate. And Lapras, I would also say, is a Pokemon that is really hard to hate. I mean, I don't think I've ever met a single person that has not liked Lapras. This Pokemon just has such a serene and great design to it. It actually has a really good move pool as well. Unfortunately, Lapras gets outclassed by a lot of water types, and it being a slow ice type Pokemon doesn't really help it defensively at all. Next is Ampharos, another Pokemon that is absolutely endearing. I'm sure a lot of people have good memories using this Pokemon in the Gen 2 games, just like with Luxray in Gen 4. Plus, it has a really nice design to it. Now, I wanted to include a starter Pokemon on this team because starter Pokemon are among the most popular in the series, and Sceptile had to be included. I mean, Sceptile might actually be worse than Meganium, I'm not gonna lie. That's just my opinion though. I mean, after using this team for as long as I have, I definitely feel that way, especially since I'm running a pretty gimmicky set on my Sceptile. This is a Fling Big Nugget Sceptile. And finally is another one of the most popular type of Pokemon, which are the Evolutions. It was between Leafeon and Glaceon. Honestly, both of them are just as popular as each other, but I ended up choosing Glaceon just because I already had Sceptile as my physical attacking grass type on this team. So that is the team of Pokemon that I will be using for this video. And as always, I have two interesting battles to show with this team, and I hope you enjoy them. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, lovely people. Today I am using the worst Pokemon that are also really popular. Well, worst when it comes to battling anyway. So let's get right into it. My opponent is going to lead Clodsire, which wasn't really a great matchup for me, but I still wanted to get off an Earthquake on it in case it was like more especially defensive. But they actually swapped into the Virizion, and this is a Pokemon that I really can't do a lot of damage to. And simultaneously, I can't really switch in against this Pokemon, so we both set up a Swords Dance, which is really interesting. I'm going to go for the +2 Leaf Blade. It does some crazy damage, but even after the crit, the Virizion is able to live that hit, unfortunately. And now they're going to eat a Citrus Berry and recover their HP, and they're going to go for the Sacred Sword and take out my Sceptile, because Sceptile is so frail. It's so tough to use, even though it's really fast. Sceptile is just... It's not powerful enough to get KOs, and it's also really hard to switch in and everything. So I am thankfully able to outspeed the Virizion with my Choice Scarf Glaceon, but as the Gardevoir comes in, they're gonna outspeed me with the Aura-Sphere. It does some massive damage, so that confirms that this Gardevoir is also running a Choice Scarf, which is how they're able to outspeed me. I'm just gonna let my Glaceon faint. I just got some really good damage with the Ice Beam, so I thought, well, I didn't want to swap my Luxray hard into that just in case I got 2-hit KO'd by that. So I knew that they had the threat in the Clodsire in the back. So this turn I went for the Agility. This Clodsire is also a male Clodsire, so I'm able to hit it with some really powerful rivalry boosted Ice Fang. And unfortunately, I thought the Clodsire would go for the Earthquake, but they end up going for the Yawn, which is definitely annoying. I don't want my Luxray to be put to sleep. Even if I get the KO on this Clodsire, then they could easily switch in another Pokemon and be able to set up for free. So, speaking of which, here comes Volbeat. I was like, oh my gosh, what is this thing gonna do? I know that Volbeat gets Prankster, but this seems to be like a sweeping Volbeat with Tail Glow. So this Lapras, I'm running max speed on it just so that I could get the jump on like bulky Pokemon that aren't running speed, and I could get off a Psychic Noise. So I'm not running special defense on this, and the Bug Buzz just does so much damage to me. I'm gonna go for the Psychic Noise. I actually do a decent chunk of damage thanks to the critical hit, but I'm not gonna be able to tank another Bug Buzz from this Volbeat. And unfortunately, the Whirlpool, it's doing a lot of damage thanks to my Binding Band, but it's not gonna be enough to take out the Volbeat. So at this point, I kind of had to sacrifice a Pokemon to this, and I had to choose Ampharos because I really wanted to keep my Lapras in the back for the Alolan Golem that they had, because I have Terra Ground for that. So I'm gonna bring in my Furret here. My Furret is going to be able to outspeed this. They were actually running a Focus Sash on their Volbeat, so I'm just gonna knock off that Focus Sash and take out the Volbeat. So they're gonna bring in the Clodsire here. Now, really the only thing I had to deal with this was Body Slam, which doesn't take it out, but I get a paralysis on the Clodsire, and then it gets fully paralyzed. Oh my gosh, if that was going for Recover, then that was like a really terrible paralysis. I'm not sure what the Clodsire set was. Like maybe it was running like Stealth Rocks and like Toxic or something. Or no, it had Yawn, so maybe it wasn't running Toxic. But if it was going for a Recover, then the paralysis that I got was super lucky on my part. So they're going to bring back in the Gardevoir, and the Gardevoir is going to trace my Frisk, which is going to, they're going to learn why I nicknamed my Furret the nickname that I nicknamed it. So I'm going to swap in my Luxray here. I was certain that they were going to go for the Aura Sphere because all of my Pokemon are weak to it. But my Luxray is just going to be able to take 2 Aura Spheres, thankfully. And the Supercell Slam is going to be enough to take out the Gardevoir. Thank goodness it didn't miss, because this move is such a bad move. Because if you miss, you take 50% of your HP as recoil. And I've lost so many games from missing Supercell Slam. Supercell Scam, sorry. It's such a frustrating experience. So as the Alolan Golem comes in, I'm going to Terastallize into the Ground type. I'm going to be immune to whatever electric move this Alolan Golem goes for. Wasn't sure if it was running a Galvanize or if it was running a sturdy Custap Berry set. The Whirlpool does so much damage. I get another critical hit. I'm getting crazy lucky in this battle, actually. I'm getting a lot of critical hits. So I am going to be immune to the Thunder Punch at the very least. And I thought, what else could this Alolan Golem be running? I'm wondering if it has like Stealth Rocks. Since it went for Thunder Punch, I had to assume that it would be running Sturdy instead of Galvanize, because Galvanize turns your normal type moves into electric type moves. So like, why would you run Thunder Punch at that point? But the Alolan Golem sets up a Sandstorm, so I was like, that's really interesting. I know why they did that, of course, and as they have the Custap Berry, that's gonna allow them to move first. And they're gonna go for the Explosion. I was like, oh my gosh, okay. They are riding on the success of the Houndstone, because Houndstone gets Sandrush? Why did my voice go like that? Houndstone gets Sandrush, which doubles its speed in the Sandstorm. So I wasn't expecting the Sandstorm tech on the Alolan Golem. That's really interesting. So I'm gonna get Sleep Talk Rest, or I got Sleep Talk Psychic Noise, sorry. And the Houndstone is gonna come in, and they're going to take me out with the Crunch. Now, I was really worried about this Pokemon, because if it had Last Respects, then I still had my Furret, but I was really worried about it being like Body Press with Terra Fighting. It's actually a Life Orb Houndstone as well. So, I'm down to my last Pokemon, my Furret. Obviously, I'm going to frisk the Life Orb, which I already knew. And they're going to go for the Crunch. It does a lot of damage. After the Sandstorm, even after I knock off the Life Orb, I imagine I would still be taken out. But I hadn't revealed Sucker Punch yet. And I intentionally didn't go for that against the Gardevoir, just in case I really needed to rely on it in the end game. And that ended up working out really well. I was able to take out the Houndstone with the Sucker Punch, and Furret ends up winning me the game there. I think Furret took out like half of the team in that game. What an amazing Pokemon. But still, that was a really good game. A lot of really interesting Pokemon that you hardly ever see on my opponent's side as well, which I always really appreciate. So naturally, that means that in the second game, I have to face just some of the most diabolical Pokemon ever. This is a Sun team that I'm facing with some insane threats like Walking Wake, Great Tusk. Dragon Dance Dragonite is always just such a headache to deal with. But I have a Furret and a Luxray and a Dream, I guess. If you're enjoying this video, by the way, please consider hitting the like button. I would really appreciate it. It really helps out my channel a lot so that more people can see this type of videos. And maybe I'll do another team of Pokemon that are both unpopular and also really bad in battles, because those are the most tragic Pokemon to ever exist. Anyway, let's get into the second game. So of course my opponent is going to lead off with the Torkoal to set up the Sun, and I have my Ampharos here. Now, I planned this lead because I wanted to go for the Power Herb Meteor Beam against this Torkoal. If I took out this Torkoal, that would be amazing. I would get rid of their Sun, and I would also deny them from setting up like Stealth Rocks or everything. So going for the Meteor Beam, thankfully it doesn't miss, and Torkoal just gets one-shot by that. That's a brilliant KO. By the way, this battle is extremely fast. This is probably one of the quickest battles that I've had in a long time too, so it definitely is at a breakneck pace. So, Sandy Shocks comes in. I'm going to up to Terrasilize into a Grass type, anticipating the Earth power to want to come out from this Pokemon. Now, in hindsight, I probably should have just brung in my my Sceptile, but that would have probably prompted the Sandy Shocks to want to swap out. And I really wanted to get rid of this Pokemon because it was really threatening into my team, just like the rest of their Pokemon. So I am able to one-shot the Sandy Shocks with the Terra Blast Grass at the very least. But as the Dragonite comes in, they're going to immediately go for that Ice Spitter and take out my Ampharos. But Ampharos ended up getting 2 KOs, which I was really okay with, especially considering that I got rid of the Sunsetter. So I'm going to bring in my Furret. I really want to frisk this this Dragonite. I was thinking that it might be Choice Banded, but it ends up being Silk Scarf. So that's definitely running on Terra Normal E-Speed. So the Great Tusk comes in. I went for the knockoff to knock off the Dragonite's item and also to break its multi-scale. But I end up knocking off the Great Tusk's Choice Scarf, which is actually really, really useful. This Pokemon would have been a surprise to deal with had it outsped my team. So I'm just going to get the Body Slam chip on this. I was hoping for a Para, but I'm going to get punched in the face and taken out by close combat. So, bringing in my Sceptile here, I threatened this with a Leaf Blade, but they're going to swap into the Dragonite. Now, I didn't think this was the worst outcome, because Leaf Blade still breaks their multi-scale, and I do have Fling Big Nugget, which should still do some decent damage now that it's out of multi-scale range. And it does some great damage. It doesn't get it to half, unfortunately, and Ice Spinner is just going to take me out still. Like, Sceptile is so frail. You can only really get, like, one attack on it if you're using, like, Swords Dance or something. Anyway, the Dragonite is now going to Terra. I figured that they would go for the Terra Normal E-Speed. I did not go into Glaceon first because I figured that the Glaceon would have prompted this Terra anyway. And I wanted Glaceon to win in this endgame because it's my only way to take out Walking Wake with Freeze Dry. And simultaneously, I wasn't going to take out the Dragonite in the range that it was at with an Ice Beam after it Terra Normaled. Unfortunately, my Lapras got crit by an Extreme Speed, and I definitely would have been able to tank like 2 Extreme Speeds after this. I was going to go for the rest and have the Whirlpool do as much damage as possible to it, and that sucks because my Lapras gets taken out, and I have to switch in my Glaceon here. Now, I am able to tank an Extreme Speed, thankfully, and the Ice Beam is going to be enough to take out the Dragonite. So at the very least, the Whirlpool chip damage was able to put it in range that I could KO it with an Ice Beam even after it became a normal type. So, Walking Wake comes in. So I can't go for Ice Beam. And the issue is that, like, I couldn't rely on my Luxray to win in this endgame because Luxray was never KOing Great Tusk, like, at all. Because Great Tusk is so bulky on the physically defensive side. So I really had to rely on my Freeze Dry Glaceon to win in this endgame. So, I'm going to outspeed the Walking Wake. That's going to take it out in one shot thanks to Freeze Dry being 4 times super effective. Now Hatterene comes in. I know that this Pokemon is very bulky, so I'm really relying on a Freeze. But the Hatterene ends up being a Eject Button. I was like, oh my gosh, is there a chance? Is there a chance? Great Tusk comes in. I'm going to outspeed that as well because I knock off the Choice Scarf. I one-shot the Great Tusk. I was like, this is really close. It's going to come down to whether or not I either freeze or crit this Hatterene. So going for the freeze dry here, it does so much damage, it gets into red, but unfortunately it's not enough to take out the Hatterene, and the Psychic is going to be enough to take out the not the Hatterene, the Glaceon. I'm Glaceon, by the way. But still, that was a really close game against a really threatening group of Pokemon. My final verdict is that even though these Pokemon are popular, some of them are still good. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. My name is SkyLaaa. Don't forget to smile, and I will see you all next time.